And then I will share my screen. And firstly, I would like to thank all the speakers who were so kind to come and that they will present their knowledge to us. And also the participants, very much thankful for joining us. So the agenda for today is the short introduction of our project, AfriCon, which will do by Tanya Muria. Then I will make a short introduction to strategy and its importance to this. Then some short session with Mentimeter, just short questions for you to be more interactive. And maybe if somebody will sleep, that he will then wake up. And then the strategy development process by Kristina Karanikolova from TNO, and also the short session with Mentimeter, and then the Josiah Aison from iSpace Foundation, also about strategic planning. And then in the second part of our webinar, we have 2 case studies. Daniel Tsopot will introduce the Agri-Food, and Josiah will provide information about the iSpace Foundation. And then also on the end, we have closing remarks and some question or some comments. In the meantime, if you have some question, you can post it in the chat section. And these are our speakers, as I mentioned, and our housekeeping is the webinar will be recorded. The materials from the webinar will be shared after the event by email, as well as monitoring file. We have prepared some surveys also for speakers and also for participants. I will share it with you after the webinar. And I will also ask you to stay muted for the unless you are speaking. And as I said, leave your questions in the chat because our speakers have around 10 minutes to present their topic, so it will not take leave so much time for any questions from the audience. So I think I can, as for the agenda, I can start with my presentation, and I will would make short introduction. Sorry, but I have some difficulties with. I don't see if anybody wants to join us. So, okay, and I will make some short introduction to the business strategy because for every organization, being non-profit or profit, it is important to having a strategy, something to outline the shared goals of organization, because as Benjamin Franklin said, if you fail to plan, you are planning to fall. And a well-outlined business strategy is essential for the success and sustainability of business, and without one, your organization can lack direction, efficiency, and profitability. An effective business strategy doesn't just define goals, it will also outline the reasons behind these goals, and that means in which way you plan to achieve them. The 5 reasons why strategy is important is of any company is for success, mainly. We are building it for success. And one of the main reasons is planning. Creating and tracking progress against an annual operation plan is an essential management tool for any company. You need to know what happened in last year and where should we go in the coming year. But without a clear picture of what you want the future to look like, you will only take one idea after another, not really make progress. The annual plan is only a stepping stone toward the achievement of the longer-term goals. The second is strength and weakness. Strategy provides a higher level of awareness and provides greater focus on activities that will make the organization more successful. And the third one, skills and knowledge. If you know where to take your business over the long term, you will have a much better idea of the kinds of capabilities you will need to achieve your goals. And strategy defines and drives decisions in organizational design. Therefore, by proactively pursuing new skills and knowledge, you prepare the organization for the intended future state, and your odds of success increase. And fourth, resources are finite. The company is larger or small, the resources are always finite. And strategy is about making choices. What products, services, and markets will be part of the future? And these types of decisions are critical to ensuring that limited resources are being deployed to the most promising opportunities that will provide the greatest return. And the fifth or the last, the environmental scan. We must know what is happening in our environment, what are trends, and being aware and prepared for potential shifts in the markets or industry provides the opportunity to take action before it happens. So the importance is that the strategic management process is about getting from point A to point B more effectively, efficiently, and enjoying the journey and learning from it. Part of that journey is the strategy, and part of it is execution. It's not really the purpose of strategic planning and having strategy that you are providing it on the start of the company's journey and then put it in the drawer and leave it at, but you must also execute there and evaluate it. Because having a good strategy dictates how you travel the road you have selected, and effectively execution makes sure you are checking it along the way. And if we talk about the strategic planning and what this really is, we can debate about the merits about strategic planning and what is really and what it isn't, but in the end, it really matters what does the strategic planning process need to do for your organization, and what does it means for also not for the CEO only, but also the other people involved, all employees, from the last one to the first one. And in the difference is that the results of the strategic planning process should be visible 12 months from now. And what you see today in your business is not necessarily the same as you will see in the 1 year time. And I will give some ideas about what the strategic planning should be about. And the very first thing that is having a plan, and plan is very simply where we are going and why. It is the plan that gives you focus. If you want to plan to be strategic, you need to take it to the next level of the process, which is actually adding in an understanding of your added value, who you are, what you do best, how you gonna play it, and how you gonna win. That is the strategy. When, where, and best. To do that, you need to do the research from a competitive perspective, a market perspective, a customer perspective, and to answer this question. Next thing is to align strategic plan with our organization. And the next question is, what is important right now? And who must do what? And what that actually looks like. And is taking the big priorities of your organization and bring them down through the organization. And while everybody wants organization to be aligned with goals, it is essentially important that everybody in organization take ownership in the plan and a process taking one step at a time. And if we want to take that further and experience organizational transformation, we need to put a process on around managing the plan right, so that it doesn't just stay there and answer the question if we are making progress and do we need to adapt the strategy. So this makes the strategic plan dynamic. Perhaps you have monthly review meeting to talk about progress and check out if you need to adapt something. So as you see in this graphic, the different steps that you take kindly build on each other. And for the process to run smoothly, there are many strategy development tools. I will not go in details with them because we will also talk about it in the masterclass in the fall on 5th of October. So that was all from my side for the short introduction. And being on my 7th slide, I remember that my egocentric nature has taken some toll in agenda of this webinar, and I cannot wait to speaking. So I am very sorry, Tanya, that I jump in and totally forget that somebody else should be the first one.
No worries. No worries. I can speak at the end just to close the meeting if you prefer. Yeah, no worries. We can just continue because maybe it makes sense to follow what you have already presented. So
yes, it maybe will be the best.
Yeah,
and apologies again.
Yes. Well, we all know that changes can happen during this kind of event, so not a problem.
Yes, thank you. So I will go to Mentimeter now and present it to you. Do you see it? I should.
Yes, we see it.
Yes, we can see. Yeah.
And you also, and can you go to the Menti?
Yes, so to access the Mentimeter, we shall all go to this menti.com and use code, and then we shall access the Mentimeter that Saza is showing.
Yes, I will also copy link in the chat.
It would be interesting later on to share then experiences if we have all written it, what are the challenges to write it and then to execute it.
That's true.
Strategy document.
This was the first question, and the answer is, I was just want to say that all of you have strategy, but now I see that not all of you have it. So it's okay. We can talk about it again. But for those of you who already have strategy, it's also good to hear it and maybe adapt and improve it along the way. So the next question would be, does your DIP have vision? Basically, I think that all entities have vision, and sometimes the vision is only one sentence. But the vision should be where to the most broad and the most interesting and also achievable. and why having strategy is important. What do you think? Yes, you see the answers, and is basically the core of why we need strategy, to focus, to have focus, to have awareness where to want to go, to align everybody, to be able to develop operational plans. It defines the process and the future. Yes, definitely. It paves the road to success. And that is all from the Mentimeter for now. It's good to know that all the participants are aligned with our thoughts. And I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor now to Christina. I hope that I didn't.
Yes, give me a second to, yes, here we are, my screen. I hope that you can now see my presentation, hopefully in full mode. I cannot see you now, so can you just confirm? Oh, perfect.
Yes, this you are seeing. Thank you.
Thanks. Good morning, everybody. I'm Christina Karanikolova, and I work in TNO in the Netherlands. We are an applied research organization. And as part of our work, we are also working in strategy and policy. And I'm personally quite involved in the policy surrounding digital innovation hubs. I'm talking to you about the strategy development of hubs, also basing our experience in the Smart Agri Hubs project, but I would come to this in a minute. Let me just start with a short definition maybe of what is my understanding of strategy, because if you Google strategy, it's actually quite a broad term, and actually quite a few people have slightly different idea of what it is. So I think it's always nice to start with some kind of a common understanding. And thank you for the first introduction. I think we're pretty much on the same page there. But strategy could be defined, and that's, by the way, coming as a definition from a colleague, Stavros from Biosense, who gave a webinar in Smart Agri Hubs on this. So strategy could be defined as the things that we do to actually reach a desired future state of our organization, whether that organization is a research organization or a digital innovation hub, a company, I don't know, a small farm somewhere. It really does not per se matter. It's how do you go to your future goal. And the planning is actually more of the managerial activity that is used in order to focus the activities and the resources that you have in your organization towards achieving this goal. It is very much used to set priorities, to identify what resources are needed, to give direction to employees and other stakeholders that are working towards this common goal, and to establish an agreement of what would you really like actually to get out this activity? What are the results? What are the outcomes that we're aiming towards? An important part is that the strategy usually is midterm oriented, let's put it this way, but of course everybody is working in a changing environment, so it should be flexible in that sense. So taking this planning perspective into mind, I wanted to also talk with you a little bit of how do we connect strategy to the overall vision and mission. And we just had a question of, do we have vision? And so we talked about the strategy, but how are these three elements of vision, mission, and strategy connected? And where do they overlap, and what can we use them for? Well, you can think of the vision, and that was actually said just now. It's usually a one sentence that describes kind of an ambition that we all strive towards, and it could be very inspirational. It usually describes the why. Why does an organization actually exist? What is the ideal future that it aims to achieve? And that differs, right? So you can think that for a digital innovation hub, for example, the vision might be that we have a very connected local ecosystem that supports the future development of agriculture. Or it could be that in 2050, agri is completely supported by new digital solutions. The mission is a little bit of a more practical definition of what is the role of the organization to achieve that vision. So the vision is a little bit of a broader, maybe outside view that we have, while the mission is what the organization can do. For a digital innovation hub, for example, you can think of things like the digital innovation hub can connect people in order to support the adoption of advanced technologies. Or the purpose of the digital innovation hub might be different. It could be about raising awareness of the opportunities of advanced technologies. It all depends, of course, on what is needed in your vision and what is the role that you want to play as an organization. And lastly, the strategy is actually used to create a vision of, or a view of how the organization is going to reach this vision and mission. So it's much more practically oriented. It provides a roadmap. It provides a course of action. It sets more concrete, more midterm goals that could be achieved. And the strategy is then implemented by different activities, different tactics, etc. So having this kind of framework in mind, what does a strategy look like for a digital innovation hub? And what are some particularities of a digital innovation hub that we should take into account when thinking about a strategy development? Well, digital innovation hubs are often public-private partnerships. Not always, but often. And that has its implications. Why? Because then you have to take into account the goals of different stakeholders. Your mission could be a little bit more society oriented rather than more business oriented, but it should not be forgotten that the digital innovation hubs are often also business-like organizations in the sense that they offer services, sometimes they're paid for, and the strategy planning should take this into account. It means that you have to balance sometimes some interests in your ecosystem, but that's the key role of a digital innovation hub as an ecosystem-focused organization. So in the strategy development, this also means that different attitudes and different interests should be considered, but it also means that we might need to take a little bit of a longer term view sometimes in the strategy to connect it to the public strategies and public plans and policy plans. The strategy development process, there are different phases that you could follow, but the about 4 main ones that you could see are that you start with a discovery, gathering information. What is it that you need? What is it that you don't know? Then you develop the strategy. So how do we reach the goals that we have and the mission? Then you implement it. How to put it into action, what are the different tactics that you can use, and then you measure the results, and if necessary, you adjust. And all this is, of course, quite a repetitive process, in the sense that you do have to measure your results, and you do have to maybe adjust a little bit, and you go through again the development, and you go through the implementation, etc. So some other implications when developing your strategy and following these 4 steps. One of the first things that support organizations usually in developing their strategy is to evaluate their context. And in this, you can think of a SWOT analysis very practically. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the threats that are coming in your context? What in order to achieve your mission and vision, don't forget, because you as a digital innovation hub or another organization are actually focused on your vision and mission as well. But it's also a connection to policy. So as the digital innovation hubs are often public-private partnerships, and they do have a societal role, societal mission in some cases, it is important to connect to policy. And just as an example, in the EU, we now have the twin transitions that are really a high priority from the Commission side, and these are the digitization and the greening transition. And both of these set a framework in which the digital innovation hubs could also position themselves. So this context and this connection to policy have an impact on your strategic direction. Do you want to focus only on digital, which was actually the case until in the previous programming period of the Commission? I think it was until 2020. Or do we also now focus on green transition, which is a new element that could actually leverage the position of the Digital Innovation Hub? It could also help the Digital Innovation Hub focus on specific areas. And here you can think of policy, but on a regional and national level. So if your digital innovation hub is operating in a region where, let's say, horticulture is a priority, and or smart farming is set up as a specialization priority, then it might be that the digital innovation hub could leverage on this policy connection in order to develop its strategy. And the direction, the long-term vision and mission could also be supported if you're a new digital innovation hub and you're in the process of setting up your vision and mission by thinking about your context and the connection to policy. Why? If you think about societal goals, if you think about missions on policy level, they provide a very long-term vision. So you could get inspiration from this on that side. And of course, the digital innovation hub position within this context and connection to the policy should be explained in order to help you actually develop a plan for action. Going to a second point, so when developing your digital innovation hub strategy, when you have positioned yourself into the overall regional context, your ecosystem context, your policy context, then it's also important that you consider the aims of your stakeholders. Again, digital innovation hubs are multi-stakeholder entities, and this ecosystem focused view of the digital innovation hubs is actually very positions the digital innovation hubs very strongly in the ecosystem, but it also means that you need to consider what your stakeholders' missions and strategies are also in order to discuss this upfront and to reconcile if there are any tensions. Also, one thing to consider is that governments or regional authorities are sometimes often part or sometimes a part of the Digital Innovation Hub partners. So this might have an impact on your strategy. So when you think about your stakeholders, then comes also the more practical thing of how the strategy is then connected to your Digital Innovation Hub activities and the business model that you're positioning. Different business models could actually support the same strategy and therefore contribute to achieving the mission and vision of the Digital Innovation Hub. So the business model is also a part of the overall strategy of the Digital Innovation Hub, and this should not be forgotten. The particularity about the Digital Innovation Hubs is that they're often two-sided. They're using two-sided business models, so like a platform, they're addressing both the supply and the demand for innovation, and that has an implication. This also leads me to say that strategy development could also be, by the way, considered as a service that the Digital Innovation Hub could offer to its stakeholders, to its clients, depending on whether that's needed in the region. That's very important. And oops, sorry, I clicked the wrong way. The last part that I want to say, and that's connected to actually all the previous three parts, is that a strategy is very good, but it also should be realistic, and it should be connected to financing and funding. And public funding is often connected to market failures. So if you're going to use public funding, you have to connect your activities, your strategy to address or to help mitigate market failures, and that's usually connected to a specific policy in your region on a EU level or a national level, whatever your main stakeholders are. And the Digital Innovation Hubs are often non-for-profit organizations, which does not mean that they cannot make profit for some of the services. It just means that in the end, they have to reinvest in their own services. This has an implication of your strategy. So if you want to grow very fast, please also consider how does this connect to your financing and funding opportunities. And I'm almost finished. So if we think about the strategy and Digital Innovation Hubs, from what we sketched a little bit, we see that the strategy impacts and reflects different aspects of the Digital Innovation Hubs. It can reflect the overall plans and direction of the Digital Innovation Hub. So this is connected to your vision and mission, but it's also part of your research strategy. It's part of your business model. It's part of your human resources strategy. How are you going to grow? It can connect to your branding. It can connect to your organizational strategy. So strategy could be quite a big topic, but it could also be broken down to different elements. And these elements should be considered in your strategy development, right? You start from the vision, you go to the mission, and then the strategy, and then you can drop it down to smaller and smaller pieces. So take the time, develop a systematic and dedicated Digital Innovation Hub strategy, even if this sounds not useful, as was mentioned in the first presentation. If you don't have a strategy, well, and you don't plan for it, it might be that this leads to problems in the future. And be adaptive in your strategy to change to your circumstances, but also to, for example, position yourself in different policy aspects. And while you can adapt your strategy, keep in mind that your vision and mission are usually constant. So these do not change that often. So you always have to keep the big picture in your mind when developing your plan of action. There are different tools available out there. I have just copy-pasted from the ClearPoint strategy article about 20 that you could use. Choose whichever whichever fits your organization best. It's up to you. It depends on your needs. Depends on where you are in the organization of your Digital Innovation Hub. But do not forget to keep in mind the needs of your customers. So why are you there actually? And also who are your partners and how does this fit to your objectives? If you're interested to see some more information, you can always go to Smart Agri Hubs. We have also another webinar on strategy development. So feel free to see it. It's under trainings and you can find it also recorded. And that's from my side. I'm sorry if I took longer.
Thank you, Christina. It was very interesting presentation. I will also add that one of the webinars from Smart Agri Hubs and much more from them are also available in the AfriConEU page in the section library and DIH capacity buildings. So I would kindly ask you again to go to the Mentimeter because I have 3 short questions for you. And the next one is because myself and Christina was talking about future and to have visions and to know what you want. If you think about the future, which trends will influence your DIH or other organization in the future?
Sasha, you need to share the results.
Yeah, sorry. I will share my screen. Do you see it?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, great. And so the lack of finance or the funding and the reality and the sustainability and technology and recession and the customer needs are changing. Innovation support, digitalization. And the next question is basically for the next masterclass that we are planning in October, that how much you are familiar with strategic planning tools and how much do you need information on that, because we are planning more events in our AfriConEU projects. And they are all on building capacity of digital innovation hubs, and the master classes will be more interactive than webinars themselves. And the last question will be where you see your organization in 5 years' time. You can respond in a few words. What do you think? On the top of the world, maybe on being successful in your region. And it's good to see that you all have ambitious and good goals to follow. Okay, thank you for sharing your ideas. That was all from Mentimeter, and now I will ask Josiah to present.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I would put my screen, well, my video on after I'm done, because again, for us back in our homeland in Ghana, the bandwidth always affects when we put video on, so it drags. Pleasure to be here. I'm going to share my screen. So one of the speakers have kind of touched on some of the stuff already, so I'll try and skim through as quickly as possible so that we don't kind of repeat ourselves, so to speak. But what I find when I work with startups, sorry, can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. When I work with startups and it comes to helping them frame their strategic plan, I break it up into just literally 6 pieces in that regard. So again, a lot of us have talked about the vision, why that is important. I'm looking at the mission, objective, the strategy itself, and then how to approach it. And then basically the methodology or the tactics that you're going to use to achieve that. So I'm going to use this opportunity to kind of touch on it and then kind of move off as quickly as possible. So if there's any questions, we can answer. So again, one of the most important, the first thing to do is define your vision. What do you want to see, right? And in order for you to do that, ask yourself these questions. And I think we just even did it right now by asking the question of where do you see your company in the next 5 years, right? Because again, what would you want your company to look like? What does success look like to you? Because most of the time when you find yourself in the same space and you're competing with similar organizations, you tend to want to mirror their success. And then when you do that, it can kind of make your vision a bit muddy. See, so you need to define what success actually means to you. And this will then give you a clearer picture of the vision for the future that you're looking at. See, so if success means that it's X amount of customers that you want to achieve or scale to different countries, that is what success means to you. It might not necessarily mean solving a particular problem. It could be, you know, employing X amount of people. So what does success actually mean to you? And map it out in that vision. Now, in that, mission goes with the vision. So your vision is what you want to see, and your mission is really the how you're going to achieve that, is the how, is the practical side of the thing. Now, again, it says that without your mission, your organization lacks the why and how to do anything. And then, so how do you go about literally achieving this? You have to ask your questions again. What does your organization intend to accomplish? Why do you even? So this mission involves organization as an entity and the people that also work there. Because sometimes people work for working's sake, but they don't literally buy into the vision or the mission of the organization. See, so you need to ask your employees, why are you even working here, right? What is so special about working here? Because if they identify why they work in here, it's easier to then achieve that mission because they will move in the unison, they will move in one direction. And if they're not in unison with the organization, you will have problems. So the outcome of your mission is to literally get everybody moving in one direction. Then naturally we move to the objectives, because again, it's about achieving something. So you have to clearly define earlier the path in order for you to achieve all of these things, right? And in order for you to do that, again, you have to ask your questions. I think the previous speaker talked about for digital innovation hubs, you have to look at your stakeholders and you have to map out your whole, we call it business analysis. So literally map out your whole environment, both internally and externally. You know, what are our stakeholders' expectations to our financial performance or the social outcome, particularly if you're doing social projects. What do we aim to achieve, right? How are we going to reach our outcomes? What values must we provide to the customer? Is it, you know, just selling stuff to them what is really the objectives of our business? What do we aim to achieve? And by doing that, you then be able to build that into your whole strategy. So again, if it's money related, it's important to think about it. You also have to think about internally, you have to think about your employee satisfaction, because most of the time we do things as organizations and think externally only. We have to think internally too, because the employees, believe it or not, are one of the most important pillars in your business, employees and customers. So if your employees are not satisfied, you will not be able to achieve your vision and your mission. So you have to definitely bear that in mind and ask yourself the true question: do we have the skills? Do we have the capacity, capability as organization to even achieve this vision and mission? If we don't, how are we then going to do it? Do we need to train people? Do we need to bring in experts in order for us to achieve this particular objective that we want to achieve? And then you move on to developing the strategy itself, right? Because again, strategy is what you're going to use to achieve what it is that you want to achieve. And then how are we going to do that? Ask yourself the questions. How are we fundamentally at this level? How are we moving? How are we going? What it is that we're doing, right? Who must do what in order for us to achieve these goals? So do not be bogged down in thinking that because I'm the manager, I need to do this. And one of the best ways to do it is, again, the SWOT analysis. So you identify your strengths, your weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats around you. Now, I always tell startups, because working with startups, that when you look at your SWOT analysis, the key element that you need to focus on are the top two. So the right one and the left one, which is your strength and your weaknesses, right? And the threats and opportunities are external of you anyway. See, so if you clearly identify what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, then when it's easier for you to then identify what the opportunities will be and what your threats will be. So you have to then do all of these things. And what gaps do you have in your organization? And these gaps can be financial, it can be human capital. These gaps, how are they going to help you move forward? So in the strategies that you're going to do, what are the missing gaps? What do you need to fill in order for you to achieve that? So ask yourself these questions, really. Who must do what? Not just because you're the CEO, you have to be the salesperson. You could be the CEO, but then you're very good at just literally putting proposals together. That's good. That's what you need to do. You can't just be doing everything else. So you clearly have to identify in the strategy who is good at doing what, and then place that and equip the person to do that. Then you move on to your next thing. What is the approach? Because this then becomes the framework. How are we going to do this? And again, it moves on to asking the right questions. Communication schedule. If we have a program or a product to then launch, what is the plan? How are we rolling out? Our staff members, do they understand why we're doing what it is that we're doing? How are we even going to communicate this particular product or services to the customers? So that is the approach in itself. And then when you look at things like structure, right? What are the dates? So again, I think one of the previous speakers touched on it. A strategy document is fluid, right? It's not concrete. It has to change. So you can review it literally. For me, I always advise people to do it quarterly, because your environment changes and the customers are new. You get new threats, you get new opportunities. So you have to revisit your strategy document all the time, literally every single 3 months if you can. And then what system you have in place to report? What are you exactly reporting? You can report on your staff output. You can also report on sales. You can report on social media. All of these things are things that you have to think about as part of your strategy. And for me, the last one, again, is action. Now, there's no point in having a strategy document and then not taking action. So you have the document, we've created a nice document, and I think even when we were doing the survey, we put it there. How many people know the organizational strategy? So again, you have to, just because you have document, doesn't mean that you created it and you put it in place. So now you have to take action. And in that, what are questions that you need to ask yourself? Will your goals be achieved within a time frame? And actions are supposed to be smart. So again, it's specific, right? It's literally measurable, right? It's achievable, it's realistic, and it's time bound. So you put all of these things in structured, you have to take actions. And in order for you to do that, again, map out when things need to be done, who is doing what, and be focused in that direction. So that particular part of your strategy document is looking at ways that once you're able to do that, then you know you're achieving. So the action part of your strategy document is really about achievement. So there's no point in having a strategy document and not having an action plan to it. See, so it's something that I always tell SMEs and startups, that you have to have an action plan. When you're going to roll out a product, why are you rolling out the product, what kind of planned activities that you have, how much is going to cost you, all of these things, who is doing what external people that you have to do, what are the deadlines, all of these things has to be part of your action plan. So if you put all of that together, pretty much there's the pyramid that you're going to use. So yeah, so in action, if you're able to do any of these things, then we come back to here. These are the pyramid approach to building your strategy, literally the process that you need to use to build your strategy plan if you're an SME or a startup. Obviously, there are other elements to it, but then at the basic level, these are the things that you need to use. So on that note, I will stop sharing my screen, and if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Josiah, for your interesting presentation and your insight. We will hear you again when you will present your iSpace Foundation. But now we are going to Daniel Swot and DIH Agri-Food, that he will talk about it and present basically our work. Thank you, Daniel. Go ahead.
Thanks a lot, Sasha, and thanks for the speakers. Just to start my presentation, well, I need to be very critical towards myself because the first thing, and I'm already jumping to the conclusion of my presentation, is that we need to, and I will quote, take time, develop systemic and dedicated DIH strategy. At least we need to redevelop. Since I will show you what we have done, we have taken a little bit different approach. I would say more of a kind of a blue ocean type of strategy approach, which we wanted to, we started already in 2017 when we find out that the way how we need to handle things is to is very much close to the digital innovation hub strategy and the way how digital innovation hubs needs to be positioned in Europe. When we were meeting other initiatives in Kilkenny back in 2017, when the European Commission was basically working on establishing this strategy and what would the digital innovation hubs mean in the future. So basically, I'm coming from innovation technology cluster, and we so just to understand a little bit, and we are also developing a Green Point, which is a living lab, and a digital innovation hub, which is a informal organization. So basically it's not an organization, it's more of a network. So if I set a kind of a background to what we are doing, so innovation technology cluster is fostering cross-sectoral innovation and implementation novel technologies. And we have a goal to become one of the most advanced rural regions for food production and supply. So basically out of that, and in the past we have been covering this sector pretty much in detail. So I'm speaking about Agri-Food Sector. And of course, the strategic background in agri-food is, of course, we need to produce more food with less resources. And it was pretty obvious that the approach towards farmers and food producers need to be changed. of course, with the digital transformation initiatives and of course technologies and everything, this needs to be done a little bit differently. So, and we are of course asking us all the time, because the agri-food is not only a technological, I would say, challenge. We also need to produce food which is environmentally, of course, acceptable and economically and socially sustainable. So there are many challenges to this process. And I would just mention one particular one, because it's called interdisciplinarity. So it's not anymore enough that one single organization is supporting this initiative. We need to act together. So we need to join forces and create some kind of a multi-actor approach. So that's why we established the Digital Innovation Hub. And we have, of course, we have done numerous workshops with our closest partners and with founders. We have been debating on the approach, if it should be official, the organization, I mean the formal organization, if it should be informal or different kind of approaches like paid memberships and other type of organizations. And then we decided to keep it simple and smart, introduce it as informal, and just start connecting organizations that think similarly and have similar focus. That's why we created something, I would say, not very traditional. As I said, it's not an organization, but we have found out that there is a big potential of such collaboration, because we are not focusing on, you know, big contracts, speaking to, I don't know, universities on some general type of collaboration, which takes a lot of time and everything. So we have done this very fast and very efficiently. Now, it has proven to be a very successful story, because currently we are the biggest digital innovation hub for agri-food in Europe, which means, I mean, I'm counting the members and the followers and the reach which we have. It's a big network, because we have been thinking also how to implement the approach which is called the clustering clusters type of approach. So we are trying to not only to connect members or specific SMEs, we are also connecting clustering organizations or different or additional or other DICs through Europe and globally. So eventually, now we have also taken the path of EDIH strategy. We have joined forces with 5 additional digital innovation hubs from Slovenia under DGC initiative. So I expect that this will grow even faster. Now, the strategic orientation, I mean, the topic-wise, is we are covering different technological areas, of course, but I would like to stress that we have focused on 3 main pillars. So one is digital transformation of farming sector. The second one is food systems and food supply chains. And the third one is agriculture and tourism. Now, the next stage was somehow to develop services, right? We have developed 7 layers of services, also analyzing all the, of course, the typical services that digital innovation hubs should deliver preferably. I remember back then it was 12 services which were somehow advised to adopt through the European Commission. So and then we analyzed our ecosystem and saw that we need those 7 layers of services. Now the business model around our digital innovation hub is different again. So we don't have any paid membership. Our business model is based solely on projects, and because we are a non-profit organization, and the sustainability of, because even Christina was mentioning that. So how do you make this digital innovation hub sustainable? This is through series of initiatives and projects. And we are building the sustainability through those projects and through partnering organizations. Now, This has an advantage because if we would rely strictly on some funding which would be directly focused on Digital Innovation Hub, of course, when this funding ends, then the sustainability is in question. On the other hand, if we discover that if we focus strictly on membership, paid membership, then we are just a supporting element of those. So we need to support those organizations, right? And we need to handle them. And we are coming from the Central Europe, but with Eastern mentality. It's a very difficult to persuade organizations, especially in agri-food sector, to go into the paid membership. I will not go dig into that problem, but it's different because I'm speaking to digital innovation hubs throughout Europe, and you can really sense and you can see the difference between Western approach and Eastern approach. So we have taken another approach which is much faster, but the problem now is that we have grown to this extent that we need to redevelop. We need to I would say, how do you say, rebuild or reassess the whole strategy again, and see what we do in the future. Anyway, so I will skip that. I will just show you, in addition to our Digital Innovation Hub, we have also, we are dealing with precision farming technologies and so on, and connecting players there. But very important part of our Digital Innovation Hub initiative, so content-wise, is also our Green Point, which is a short food supply chain, where we are developing all kinds of advanced approaches and methodologies. It is funded by farmers, which means that we have, a strong collaboration with engagement of local actors, starting from farmers and then supported with many other. Even from the ministry, there are some pictures here where minister was visiting our Green Point. So what I'm trying to say is that this Green Point is also used as a living lab approach, where we develop the new models and new business cases, if you like, with a strong participation of end users and innovation actors. So currently, we are working on blockchain-based traceability, data collection platform, and et cetera, et cetera. So this is, for instance, SME. It is, of course, a company with a strategy and everything, but it's a very important element of DIH Agri-Food, because when we elaborate on the principle of thinking globally, acting locally, we are constantly developing this model of connecting different actors around globally even, and being able to show what we are doing on the ground. Yeah. So our future orientation is twofold. One is to enlarge and enrich DIH network. And this is especially where we need to redevelop our strategy, of course. And the second one is to deploy and provide digital infrastructure and technologies. This is especially important to understand that our Digital Innovation Hub is not only a network, but it's also providing certain solutions and technologies and infrastructure, especially where there is no commercial interest, or where we see that some vendors will, of course, close the market, or it's against the faster digital transformation processes. So therefore, we are developing a DIH Agri-Food data space infrastructure, blockchain infrastructure, and also one specific solution for agricultural advisors, which is called Farm Manager. So it's basically going into data agriculture, essentially. So thanks a lot from my side. I'm very glad to be able to be part of this project, because I think that we will have wonderful workshops in the topic of strategic development, which we need to do for ourselves. So looking forward to further meetings and workshops. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Daniel, for providing our insights on the Agri-Food. And now we are going back to Josiah to present his organization.
Okay, thank you, everyone. And once again, thank you for the opportunity. Just going to talk about iSpace, who we are, what we do. Based in Ghana, we established in 2013, just pretty much a response to what was needed in our ecosystem at that time. So with iSpace, our community is pretty much entrepreneurs, innovators, I would say developers and children, just varied. We have 70% of our demographic are women, because we tend to focus a lot of our programs supporting women. And most of the community members are all actually, we like to call them actionable people. They're people that identify problems, they want to solve problems, and they look at ways in which they can impact our ecosystem. We do that through providing training programs, whether it's coding, whether it's pitching. Even today, after this call, I have about 60 people to train today on business development. So this is the kind of thing that we do as an organization. We look at, our framework is capacity building with skills. That's something that we really focus on. And then also look at funding and mentorship, because again, if you put all of these three things together, then you get the kind of entrepreneurs you're looking at. So with the skills are both technical, creative, and business, because our education system unfortunately does not prepare people in the right way. I think it's a universal thing anyway. So people tend to lack the necessary skills for them to be able to launch their startups or even create an MVP. So what we do is we equip them with the skills, whether it's coding skills that they need, whether it's business development, how to put your proposals together, how to pitch. We do that, and then give them basic funding for them to be able to test out the idea and launch an MVP, and then see what happens. And then we provide mentorship across the board to support these entrepreneurs. So some of the programs that we worked on in our incubation program is the UAT program, which is Unlocking Women in Technology, which is looking at technology and supporting more women. And then also working with IADA, which is it's a continental West African program. So it connects both the Anglophone and Francophone countries, which is one of the first programs that ever did that, where you have Francophone startups and Anglophone startups working together. So it's something that we've been working on, and also working with the National Entrepreneurship Innovation Program, which is a government related program. So again, we support individuals by giving them the capacity and skills that they need with funding and mentorship. We do a lot of these things. The services that we provide is in-person training and virtual training. We teach people how to pitch, get people investor ready, the mentoring side of things. We do it both from the professional side of things, link them up with individuals and experts in the various sectors, and then also do peer-to-peer mentoring, because we find that some people can learn more from their peers than they tend to learn externally. And then one thing that I pride my organization on is the support that we give entrepreneurs, particularly when it comes to mental wellness. So mental health, we run CEO clinics, we run show and tell programs, and how are you feeling type programs, where a lot of the people will come here, we sit down with them, talk to them, find out what they're dealing with. Because I mean, I'm sure everybody here knows that entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not a joke. It's not sexy. It's tough. And you need a supporting arm for you to do that. And these are the kind of things that some of the programs that we also run to support the entrepreneurs. We cut across the work that we do. So basically, whether it's teaching kids how to code, working with the likes of WhatsApp, which is IoT, so Internet of Things. We do our own online capacity training programs, so the virtual training people how to code, robotics, so various amounts of things. Because again, as an innovation hub, in as much as we deal with entrepreneurs, we also know that the community lacks certain skills, so we provide those activities for that to happen. Then we focus in two different areas. For the entrepreneurs themselves, we look at ways in helping them to validate their business models, putting together a pitch deck, providing the video, giving them both personal and business diagnostics to ensure that their businesses work, helping them with brand awareness. And then on the program side, or from a corporate side, we work with organizations. So at the moment, have a program to support innovation hubs on gender awareness, right? How to structure their programs through a gender lens, because again, unfortunately, we live in a society where women are not getting the fair amount of opportunity to engage in entrepreneurship, or people with disability, people from marginalized backgrounds. So we work with innovation hubs, and then develop these kind of programs for them to be able to look at their programming from gender mainstreaming perspective. So we work both with entrepreneurs and organizations as well. Some of the success stories that we have are Safi Label, which is a fashion label that we work with. We work with Safari Tours, which again, look at tourism, because we're looking at ways, particularly when Corona happened, we were looking at ways where internally we can encourage movement rather than people traveling. So it was one startup that we helped. And then the agri-tech startup is Trustee Farms. It's another agri-tech startup. And then Bola Dachin literally means refuse tomorrow. That company also works in the recyclable environmental space. So we provide some of the training and stuff for them. This is a video, but I'm going to skip the video because I'm going to share the deck anyway. So those that are interested can watch the video. It tells you this is some of the women that we work with and how we support them. And then again, our environmental ecosystem, we help with infrastructure, dealing with social issues, the legal framework. Right now, iSpace is working with the other entrepreneurs and other agencies to look at policies that we can bring. So the Startup Acts, and we're working with the Ghana Chambers entrepreneurship organizations. We're working with NEIP. We're working with the Ghana Startup Network. All of these organizations, we're working with them to bring a legal framework to then support the entrepreneurs that we work with. And then again, as a network, we understand that we need to map out our ecosystem. So one of the things that we do at iSpace is also work with external organizations in mapping out our stakeholders, who are they, local, international, multinationals, and then also how to look at investment, because in our ecosystem, we don't have out and out VCs and investment structure. So it cuts in various ways. You have grants, you have VCs, you have angel investors. So we're looking at ways in which we can rope all of these things together to ensure that entrepreneurs and startups can find their ways when they need funding. And then we work across all the 16 regions in Ghana. So we either in our physical spaces running programs, or we work with other hubs to do that. So iSpace is not the kind of hub where only focuses internally or isolated in that sense. We also work with other hubs to do that. So recently did, and I mentioned it, the Gender Awareness Program, which was with 22 hubs across Ghana on gender awareness. And this is something that we are looking at pushing further into the year, and looking at ways in which we can bring funding but attach it to gender. So the more women, the more people with disabilities that you have in your organization, we are able to then fund some of the programs that you run. So these are the things that we, this is pretty much in iSpace in a nutshell. So thank you very much for your attention and the opportunities. And I'm always available. These are my contact details. I'm always available for any questions. If anybody wants to know anything about the Ghanaian ecosystem, how we doing things in Ghana, how can we work across Ghana and in the European Union, I'm happy to facilitate that conversation. So once again, thank you for your time and looking forward to engaging with you more. Thank you.
Thank you very much for providing insights and of your important work and capacity building. And now, Tanya, you should be first, but you will be the last. I will give you the floor to you now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Saza. Thank you all for sharing those interesting informations. I'm quite excited to learn about this. And now, if you still have some energy, I would like to share you some things about our project, just to contextualize today's webinar. And for this, I'd like to share the screen, if I can. Just let me try to see how I can do this. Okay, you have already seen it. Not this one, the first one. Okay. I think you are seeing not the right. Sorry, I have some troubles with this. Not this one. You should be seeing the other one.
Yeah, we were not seeing the presentation.
Yes, no.
And now we are seeing it.
Yes, perfect. So this webinar is organized within this project, AfriConEU project, the full title is the first trans-continental network academy for African and European digital innovation hubs. This project started last year in February and will last until the January of 2024. As the title suggests, the main goal of this project is to create this first trans-continental networking academy to support the African and European digital innovation hubs in concrete capacity building, knowledge sharing, networking, collaboration, joint projects, and venture development. So this webinar, today's webinar, is organized within this main goal, the capacity building goal. This main objective is divided in three key general objectives. So to facilitate knowledge and experience sharing, to facilitate also beneficial partnership, and to promote collective projects. And this quite exciting project is organized by a consortium from with partners from different countries, from Europe and also African. I will not name all the partners. You can check it in our project if you want. We are all willing also to share more experience from our project, or to receive some questions from you if you have some interesting questions to address to us. We would be very glad to get in touch with you. The project is divided in 5 key phases. Currently, we are in the phase 3, the rollout, implementation, and assessment of the academy. So this exciting program, the academy, has just started. I will it's not here, but I can show you the full program of the academy. If you give me just 1 minute. Again, it's here. So as you can see here, the program has just started. So in May, last week we had a workshop, a local workshop in Tanzania, dedicated to purpose-driven digital innovation hubs. The recording is also available in the YouTube. You can check it. It was a quite interesting workshop. Today we have this webinar, and then the program will go on until the next year, 2023, and precisely October, closing with the capitalization event. As you can see here, the Academy is composed of a total of 46 events, so a lot of things will be organized. And what you can experience during this program is more or less this, what I will share again. So the program is divided in two main flagships, the capacity building and another one that is called trans-continental partnership development. The first one more dedicated to capacity building activities, and the second one more dedicated to the networking partnership developments. And the first one, the capacity building flagship, is dedicated to promote four main thematics. Business development models and multi-actor approach is the first thematic. The second thematic is the technology transfer of innovative technologies. The third, startups financial support, and the fourth is digital and entrepreneurial skills development. These four main thematics will be delivered, as you can see, through different activities, and the same for the partnership. Sorry, the title is not correct. This is the partnership development flagship, and it is also it also comprises different thematics, as you can see here. As I said, this Academy program is started, and we would like to have you in these activities. And for this, you can register in the website. I will show you where you can find this information. You can find the information in our website, AfriConEU.eu, and you can find all the events listed in the AfriConEU events section. There you can find all the events listed, and also the possibility to download a file that will allow you to include all the events in your calendars if you want. And well, thank you. I will not spend any more time with the Academy. We hope to have you in all these events, or in a good number of events. And thank you again for your sharings.
Thank you, Tanya, for presenting our project. And I would also like to invite you all for our next 45 events in the next year and or year and a half. So we bring our webinar core to the end of the road. If I think that the presentation were very insightful and interesting, and a lot of new information and things to think about it. And if you have any questions or comment, I think that we have 5 more minutes. And if you have no questions, I would like to thank you all for participating, the speakers for speaking, and we will share with you the recording and the presentation. And thank you, and see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye.
It was a
Thanks
pleasure
a lot.
to
Have a
meet
nice
you.
day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
We continue
Bye.
discussion with Christina, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Bye.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.